Good Monday morning, and welcome to Ice Age TV, the internal combustion engine age YouTube channel. It talks about the cars and trucks and motorcycles and the dogs and the attitudes. And hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in my channel. Appreciate the support, nice comments. And yeah, it's Monday. Wow, but what a beautiful, beautiful Monday. I mean, it's warm. I could be in my Crocs and shorts today. I'm not. Yesterday is a little cool. Oh, the kid's behind me. That'll disrupt things here. Something's going on. Don't know what that's all about, but come on, puppies. So yeah, what is my kid doing this morning? What you up to? Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. So the kid has already got her first challenge a day on her first official day of summer. No more college. So she has her freedom. Or does she? Yeah, you feeling better?
Yeah.
You're not coughing?
Because I feel 100%.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. Oh, my goodness gracious. You have to fight the sickness, right? Where's all the dogs? Hey, Ginger Scout? I don't even know. I'm getting distracted. The birds are distracting me. The kids distracting me. Everything's distracted as I try to get things in order here. And boy, I tell you what, this race truck is so much fun. And it's got that nice bed. We got a nice carpeted rug in it. And I mean, last night we just hung out in the back of the bed of the truck. Hey there. Come on, babies. Yeah, I mean, literally, that truck is so cool because it has a carpeted bed. And yesterday it was raining. And we just jumped up into the back of the truck and the dogs. And I did a little short video on it, just hanging out the truck. The love of the truck. Oh my gosh, you know, every day I get out of bed and I try to get creative for my channel to talk about things. And it's very challenging sometimes to come up with content that people will feel like they want to tune into my channel. And geez, I tell you, it's just always something to talk about. But, you know, there's always a fine line, too, that you get called out. But I thought to myself this morning, boy, oh boy, are we fighting? I mean, is it just every day we're in a fight? It seems like more than ever, it's all about fighting. And to me, I sort of remember the Tough Man series. Does anybody remember the Tough Man series where you had people that would sign up in a weekend boxing match? I mean, I used to love watching that show. You know, for me, I just never followed this guy, Joe Rogan. I don't. He was with the Fear Factor or whatever, right? But as far as really ever follow that guy, and he has his own big show. And so he used to be one of the guys, announcers for the Tough Man series? I just can't remember. I remember Lawrence Taylor was there, but it was such a cool series where you got to watch where people, the locals in a town, would sign up to fight, and you got to watch these amateurs fight, and some of these amateurs rose to be pretty good fighters. But now, anymore, just go to Twitter. I've mentioned it a million times, I've never been a Twitter guy, and wow, my mouse is dead. Oh, my one computer. Yikes. I can't get my thing to load up, so I gotta grab my other cable over here and start to charge that up. But anyways, it's never ending. So, yeah, the fight with your technology. I mean, who here doesn't fight technology? I mean, I can only imagine some people are just about ready to pull their hair out. That has a computer crash on them. You lose your files, your documents, you know, whatever it may be. Yeah, I'm drinking some coffee today. Yeah, I appreciate all the ideas, and it's great ideas out there. It just gets too complicated. So, yeah, I appreciate that. So, and how to get the acidic base out more so. So anyways, the fighting, it just seems to me like more than ever. Like I say, if you go to Twitter, I can guess now why Scott Adams just got so riled up. If you go to Twitter, the amount of fighting you see, and sure, I mean, we live in a society where everybody has a camera. I mean, so it's kind of peculiar being that so many years ago we didn't have cameras at the disposal of our hand, and we didn't have that instantaneous upload of cameras, pictures, and videos. But today we do. So today, more than ever, you just see in all aspects of our country and world, everybody, it's always fighting. So in some ways, are we fighting more than we were pre? Everybody has a camera in their hand. I mean, to me, it seems like we're fighting more, but we'll kind of try to keep it at the car theme instead of the immediate state of the time theme. But I just think to myself, well, here's the first thing I thought to myself this morning: the trucks. I just love trucks. I mean, that's truly where I came from, and that's where I first learned how to drive a stick shift vehicle. Was in California, like in 1975. It may have been 1976. We moved in 76, the summer of 76. But my dad bought a Toyota Hilux. I can't even remember the name of that damn truck. The little Toyota pickup, little red Toyota pickup truck with the moon cover wheels. And my dad literally let me, so in 1976, I guess I'd have been 13. Yeah, I'd have been 13 years old. And so I learned how to drive a truck. That was kind of my first experience of driving a stick shift up and down the street with my dad right there next to me. So, but that was like but I really wanted the big Chevy step-side truck. I mean, that's what I wanted. That was like one of the first trucks I saw in person I really wanted. So the point is, I've always been a truck guy. I've just always been the dominant vehicle in my life has been trucks. And I just thought to myself, if you're going to a fight, do you show up in the truck or do you show up in the Honda Civic, right? I mean, yeah, which vehicle you taking? Yeah, we all know the truck, the truck's the brawny, badass, I'm Mr. Cowboy or Mr. I'm going to take care of business, right? I mean, come on. It's all about the truck. In fact, look at Elon Musk, all about the Cybertruck. It's apparently still coming with Elon Musk, the Cybertruck, even though I'm sure many think that thing ain't ever coming. But yeah, I think it's coming. So anyways, back to the fight. Well, if you kind of look at where we are in the car market in comparison to like the truck market and SUV market, they're borderline. It's a fight in that market share. Meaning that Ford literally got rid of all of its passenger vehicles with the exception of the Ford Mustang. So the fight between the different style vehicles, the Ford truck won. I mean, the Ford F-150 truck is the most dominant selling product for Ford. It's the most profitable, center for it. And so in the fight for market share, it took many years per se, I guess. But, that's the winner of the fighters. And the losers are the four-door sedans. And I was even thinking to myself this morning, does GM still even have a four-door sedan? I'm not a GM guy. I'm not a Chevy guy. I mean, well, sure, I know the Cadillac. We're talking about Chevrolet. So Chevrolet, they're all crossovers. I think the Caprice or the Impala or whatever you call it, the police cruiser vehicles, I think those things are gone, aren't they? Maybe not. I know when Ford shut down the Taurus, that kind of gave Chevrolet the edge on selling sedans. But anymore, aren't they like Ford? Like most police departments have like Ford Explorers. That's what I see out in the market a lot. And then down in Florida, it's Chevy Tahoes galore, and then Ford trucks, Chevy trucks. And out in Florida, it's interesting how many like SUV and trucks are in the police force. Different environment, I guess. They kind of have a bit more of a, that's the thing about a truck. So I was talking about yesterday when I was going to the car show, was how you go for the car, because in trucks, and you go from my era growing up back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and the truck, the market share was nothing compared to what it is today, because there was nothing really to fight for, because the truck wasn't really a family vehicle. So, but it's going back to the fight. It just seems like right now, more tan ever, the fight between the vehicles is in so many ways winning in the truck segment. I mean, look at General Motors. General Motors new, or GMC, Their new AT4 what X? Have you seen that truck? That's a really good looking truck. I was talking to one of the guys yesterday at the car show that works at a GMC dealer here locally. He used to work at the Jeep dealer, and he was just saying how that GMC AT4, especially the X, you're not going to be able to get those things. He was also saying that they have a GMC Hummer in their showroom. That's a mule, and the GM won't let me touch it. Yeah, get this. So think this through. General Motors has issued Hummer EV, the EV Hummer. Let me clarify that. And they're mules. They're supposed to be let the customer come in, touch it, feel it, and drive it. And they cannot sell it till October of this year. This is all information given to me from the gentleman that works the dealership, and I've known him for many years. So this is not a story; it's the facts. And so he claims that the GM wants premium money for his vehicle when it comes to be put for sale, which he thinks is it's like 115 grand. So they know they're going to get 200 grand for it. They're just so he doesn't want to be driving it. So I said I should go down there and just taunt him and play with him and claim I'm going to call GM and file a complaint and just let me drive it. Then I can do my own little video skit, right? And then my friend's like, he said, no, come down and tell him you'll pay him 200 grand for it today. And he's like, he'll be like in tears and he can't sell it. Yeah, but in all reality, if I was a little closer to this guy, I definitely probably would try to do something in the antics video, right? So, yeah, the fight to test drive a vehicle, right? I mean, come on. It's incredible. Here, please take my $200,000. I mean, where we are in today's society of buying cars. I mean, does anybody just beyond believable that we are now at the level during the pandemic that you're begging to buy a car? I mean, can you believe this stuff? Where we are, you're fighting to buy a car. You're driving to the dealership as fast as possible because you're only be so lucky to get one, and there's 10 other people wanting to get it too. I mean, does this sound familiar? Right. Who would ever believe that? Who would ever believe that you'd be fighting to buy a car? I'm not talking about a 3,000 limited production Dodge Demon 170. I'm just talking about regular production cars that during the pandemic went to null. And, just like with my Jeep Grand Wagoneer, when I heard there's another couple looking at that vehicle, I was like, I'm out. And the sales guy claims they ghosted him. I was by there like a week ago. We started talking. I said, whatever happened to the field? Did they ever buy anything? He's like, they ghosted me once you bought that vehicle. They didn't believe the story. He said they didn't believe the story that you gave them first right to buy it. And since they didn't do anything, you decided to go ahead and buy it. He said they totally thought that was your typical sales guy making up a story. The fight, right? The fight to believe me. Yeah, so just in the car industry, we've witnessed borderline people fighting over getting a car. But now, more than ever, we're fighting over what we want versus what we don't want, which means for the Dodge brand people, they're fighting for the Ice Age to continue. But then Stellantis and Tim Knuskis is fighting for you to buy an electric vehicle. I mean, wow. And here's Jim Farley. I always thought Jim Farley looked like Chris Farley. And I never really even looked it up. So for the record, yeah, Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford. I mean, I think this is classic. I've always thought Jim Farley just a clown. I mean, he just has that look to him. And what he's done with the company. Well, does anybody remember a year ago I was telling you in my videos that the GMs, these Ford dealerships, were being told as their last show that it would only be personal ordered inventory. Does anybody remember this conversation? Yeah, Jim Farley, who's the cousin of Chris Farley, who's sadly the comedian. If you know who Chris Farley is, look at Jim Farley and borderline, that's Chris Farley. Well, Chris Farley passed away years ago, but that's his cousin. And so Jim Farley was telling the dealers that only inventory you'll have is customer ordered inventory. But how does that work when the car comes in, the guy comes and gets it and takes it home right away? So the dealers were fighting, they were objecting, fighting against that a whole business plan. Yeah, well, if you watch my channel and see me go to the Ford dealers, there's a gazillion Ford trucks and SUVs, I should say, like the Ford Explorer, the Ford Mach-E in some aspects, and Ford Mustangs. So what happened to that? What happened to that idea? I guess the dealers' infrastructure, well, so many parts of me says the unions would be like, are you kidding me? You're telling me that we used to build X amount of cars just for one dealership, and now you're telling me it's only going to be customer order only? So what are the union guys be doing half the time besides getting paid to sit around, drink coffee, and eat donuts, right? Yeah, so I guess the fight in the back end with Jim Farley was probably pretty prevalent, meaning that I'm sure many people were like, Jim, this is not going to work. The competition's not doing this, per se. Even though you hear the comments are so often heard, we're never going back to the way it used to be on this big, huge dealer inventory. But to me, it sounded like, yeah, right. Well, Ford, if you go down to your Ford dealer, you'll see that the F-150s are pretty healthy. I'm not saying that they have every exact model you want, but at the same time, Ford has definitely ramped up production. And the Explorers, the Expedition, I don't think is dominant. The F-250s, the F-Series, Super Duty Series still isn't dominant, but your F-150 series, yes. Your Ford Explorer, yes. Ford Mustangs, yes. So, yeah, Ford Broncos, not so much. These are just sought after high vehicles as you fight to get an order, right? I mean, wasn't that the next thing? You're fighting to get an order. You fight for the price. I mean, isn't that? I mean, go to the dealership. Don't you feel like it's going to be a fight over the price of the car? I mean, who hasn't had this? Who hasn't had the drawn out fight where you raise your hand and you walk out, or eventually they raise their hand and they wave the white flag and you get the deal you wanted? Yeah, who doesn't know that? Who hasn't had to fight in the back end with the service manager because you're told it would be X amount of dollars and it turned out to be a lot more than that, or they made something else wrong, or they dented your car, or the list goes on and on and on. It's all about the fight. I mean, but more than ever, it seems like the big fight is the green agenda of the world. And I talked to so many people when I'm at these car meets, and we just start talking general talk. And even for me, I was clueless. The green agenda has the fight of the fight, meaning they have the huge bank accounts that allow them to fight so many to advance their agendas, because they've got the big glove, I guess you could say. They get the big glove that can knock out these people that are anti, or just aren't looking at their movement as quickly as they're looking at it. I mean, so for us Ice Age people, more than ever, we're fighting in so many ways the green agenda, but in so many ways we're not, because it's advancing. And where have you heard of the Ice Age, the Ice Age committee showing up at the meetings of local towns, or the big businesses, or the board member, or the stockholder meetings, where you hear the Ice Age, presentation of what's going on, and overcomes the green agenda? You don't. So the green agenda, in the fighting aspect, they're winning every round they're showing up to a degree. There was an article this morning in the Wall Street Journal about how there are a lot of rural towns that are kind of starting to wake up to all this solar panels and, in a 1,000-acre field, and the windmills. And a lot of these smaller towns, rural towns, are starting to raise their hand and fight against it. And they don't want anything to do with it. So there is in rural areas, even though I'm talking like Arkansas and Kansas, that are starting to pose the infrastructure of this renewable energy. I mean, that's what it is right now. Who would ever thought, if I would have been told back in the 70s and 80s, you're going to be fighting for energy. And immediately what I was said is, yeah, we're going to be fighting the Middle East for that oil. But today, no, that's not the fight. The fight is renewable energy. We are now more than ever getting ready to witness the fight over renewable energy. It isn't going to be the fight over oil per se, meaning that we're going to be trying to overtake Saudi Arabia or the Middle East oil fields to protect our energy resources. No, we're going to be fighting among ourselves about what makes sense on renewable energy. And to the point that there's even another major movement of the green agenda is for us humans to cut down our energy consumption. So, I mean, there's so many variables and so many fights ahead for us, meaning that, once we get to the green agenda's so-called criteria and they're, appeasing to them of what they think is so great of this renewable energy, but it's already talked about. This is nothing new out of my mouth. But then the next will be your energy, your consumption of energy. How can you change your lifestyle to not require energy, renewable energy, any energy per se that has the cause and effect in the end that will impact, Mother Earth. And so anyways, this fight in rural towns on this renewable energy being pushed by big companies, because there's billions of dollars that are out there for business people to make monies off this renewable energy, and that's going to drive, the investors and the people who want to make money to build out infrastructure. It's already happening. And what's interesting is, like, in New York State and I think Illinois, and maybe another state out there too, they've already written in their state legislature that if you're a landowner and you resist this renewable energy, they can just override you. Borderline like eminent domain. Yeah, so you can sit here and cry all day long about how your whole rural town just doesn't want the windmills and the solar panels galore to overtake your landscape of your beautiful prairie town. And in the New York State or Illinois, the legislator can just kick you to the curb and, too bad, so sorry, go cry all day. You're not going to, you lose. So in that fight, another fighting is lost. Another fought or whatever. I mean, wow. You go over to the Dutch farmers, their fight for their rights to keep their farming, isn't that supposedly? I mean, I don't know. I'm not over there in the European Union. I just read articles and information, and you hear a little about it. But is that really going to happen? Is the EU really going to force out 3,000 Dutch farmers that have to appease to them? Where when they were fighting with those protests with all their tractors in the streets there in the Netherlands, and what came from that fight? Nothing. And that's what's so, I guess, aggravating if you're an individual that likes to go fight and oppose the agendas. But in the end, the big guys with all the money and the weapons just basically obliterate you and kick you to the curb. And so that's for us, that's the challenge more than ever, is us ICE guys and ladies, I think we all feel like, just wow, we just aren't sold that the EV is the total answer. And look at Japan. Japan seems to be much more reserved on, per se, the EV movement. They seem to try to be kind of not going rapidly as fast in some ways. But I don't know. I mean, it seems to me that the green agenda is advancing, and I just think that's going to be the same story with them. Even though the hybrid, I've talked about so many times, the win-win would be really for both parties to have the hybrid and synthetic fuel. I mean, think it through. If you've got a hybrid vehicle that gets 50 miles a gallon, and you got synthetic fuel that costs you, $5-6 a gallon, but yeah, who cares if you're going double, triple, quadruple the distance of your ICE vehicle, and the fuel even was triple or quadruple the price, it's still the end result, but you still have your ICE capabilities. So it just seems like it's such a closed mind, such the racehorse mentality focal point that people just don't want to back up. And because when you're fighting, if you ever watch fights, people fighting, you always think, boy, if they just would have made that maneuver versus that maneuver, it would have been a whole different story, right? I mean, isn't that kind of how it works? And fighting can be a very broad term. In sports, you're fighting for the championship, you're fighting for the win, you're fighting, so I mean, so many aspects, we all know it's just that one little difference in the move or strategy that can change the whole game, and you can win or lose. And so that's why I think with the EV agenda, the green agenda, the fight has to continue because they're just so heck bent on, I think they all know the end result. But it's the money factor now. So more than ever, if you think it through, more than ever now, our country's in the money factor of the green agenda, meaning the government has given out so much money to entice others to get the green agenda moving faster, sooner than later. Then some aspects, when you start chasing the money over the common sense of the reality, doesn't that usually get kind of goofed up? I mean, if anybody here is of the age I am, and you start having the focal point, it's all about the money, and you really base everything around the money, but in the end, does it really play out to have been the right decision when it's more about just the money? And that's what you have to think about. Is right now, the driving force of the whole infrastructure of this country that you're hearing the sitting president brag about on how he's bringing back all this and all that and all that and all this and everything else, but it's at the taxpayers' expense of billions, if not trillions of dollars, that's borderline, could you say, driving a false narrative? I mean, in so many ways that I've talked about last week is what if the transportation sector just really, in the next 20 years, isn't anything of what it is today? From so much advanced technology and so much advanced infrastructure of the way people do things, get around, just has changed so much that is it sustainable for all this investment to get a return on what people don't want or need? I mean, there's a lot of variables to that, but wow. And then just kind of now moving on and kind of getting ready to wrap it up. But then you just go to Twitter. If you go to Twitter, you want to talk about seeing fighting. I mean, it's just incredible. It's incredible how many people are fighting today. And like I say, here's the danger. Was this going on more so 20, 30 years ago? I mean, I don't think it was. I don't think even 10 years ago it was. Because to go onto Twitter and witness people riding subways and are fighting themselves and, not only in the subway waiting for the train, but on the train. And then you witness all the school fighting in schools between the teacher and the kids fighting. And then in the streets, the fighting. I mean, here's the thing. You don't have to watch. For me, I used to so look forward to like it was either Friday night or Saturday night, the Tough Man series. So when I was working, my tail off, day in, day out. And my one thing I looked forward to was like a Friday like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I think the Tough Man series would come on because they would travel from like town to town. And it was only like, I think, 3 months or 6 months out of the year. And it was just a great thing to watch. You watch these people that were just a regular good old boy and would just show up to fight, and most of them got, obliterated. But some were like, wow, you never thought that guy had that. And that was such a cool thing to watch. And it was in a controlled environment. It wasn't where they let them kill each other. But yet today, just tune into your Twitter account, and you can watch the Tough Man series all day long. But it's really borderline the kill person series. But what's interesting is so many young girls and so many women out there are fighting. I mean, and tell you what, some of these girls, it's like, wow. I mean, some of these women, I mean, you may be kidding yourself thinking you're going to go up and take care of, you may pay dearly for that, picking that fight, right? But that seems to be the most dominant thing. And I guess that's why Scott Adams eventually lost it. And, he voiced his views and ideas of what's going on. To me, it's all over the place. I mean, it doesn't matter really what you look like. It's everything. It's everybody. It's crazy. Yeah. So, the fight. I mean, are we fighting more than ever? Then you go to Ukraine. We're borderline fighting with Russia, borderline on the edge with China. Iran. I mean, it's just like the fighting that seems more than ever, we could say in today's society, we are in the biggest fight ever in modern times. I mean, are people fighting to feed themselves? Are people fighting to pay the bills? Are people, fighting to be able to afford to pay for a car because everything's gotten so much more expensive? Are people fighting to stay at home and remotely work instead of having to drive back to work? I mean, there's so many aspects of fighting, and it can sound, aggressive, but in so many words, we're fighting for our rights, right? I mean, it just, the list goes on and on and on and on, which that means I'm going to have to turn it off, right? Hey, everybody, I really appreciate everybody watching my channel, and thanks so much for all the support, and hope today's conversation just gives you some ideas and just conversation. You were sitting here in my room in the office here with me, this is the type of things I'd be talking to you about. And that's what's incredible is Joe, who used to work for me, we used to sit down right before we get the workday going, and we would just kind of talk about these things. And that was pretty cool because he and I would actually just kind of, hear different ideas and views. And which was pretty cool because he sometimes would look at my view like, yeah, you're not so much. You might want to think about that. And I'd be like, yeah, that's really good. That's really good. That's why you got comments on the YouTube channel. Anybody's out there like, well, I don't know if you really, that's the right way to say it. Maybe you should have said it this way. I'd be like, yeah, sounds good. I like to hear the fight, right? Fight for the words. Fight for the YouTube channel video highlight spotlight, right? All right, everybody. Hey, thanks for watching again. Stay tuned. What are we doing? The kids gotten a lot better. And even for me, I think I even have had what she's had because my coughing and hacking has really calmed down a lot. And I just kind of think to myself, wow, I think whenever she had, I kind of had it too. And thank God she really is getting better. So that's a blessing there. So, pray for a miracle. Pray for a miracle. That's what we all need to do because where we are in today's country today more than ever, and I'm not going down the rabbit hole from this past weekend. I mean, how do you come to work Monday morning if you live in Texas with a clear head? I mean, sincerely, how do you come to work Monday morning and have a clear head? Wow. Prayers for Texas. Prayers for the country. I mean, sincerely, everybody needs to start praying for a miracle in this country. Wow. Everybody, thanks for watching. God bless. Stay safe. Stay tuned. Have a great day.